and I'm gonna call, the meeting of September 10th, 2025, Warm Springs Rural Citizens. Forum. Roll call.
I'm Kevin Cook here.
Larry Chesney.
Jan Mortensen, Carolyn Quinn.
We have a forum. Next on the, agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. All please stand. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is general public comment. We have any general public comment?
Two people find it.
Okay. First off, and we'll do these two first, and then there's others in the audience that want to do public comment. Yeah. Bob, go on.
Well, I came here to address the representatives from the Valley Interchange, so I was not to hear you.
So they are an agenda item, Bob, and there will be time for public questions and answers after they give their presentation.
Okay, that's what I'd like to do.
Okay, sure, no problem. All right, Wanda Wright.
Same thing.
Okay. So, like I say, that's an agenda item. There will be Q&A after their presentation. And, next on the, is there any other further public comment? Before I move on. Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 10th, 2025. Any additions, correction?
I had a correction that I talked to Casey about, Jan Mortensen for the record, and it was just, getting Lori Schwartzoff, her last name spelled correctly in the.
Okay, great. All right. We have a public safety update. Do we have?
Were you guys gonna vote to approve the minutes?
Oh, yeah, do I have
I'll second.
okay, we got a motion and a second. Yeah, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Unanimous. Okay. Public safety update, we have.
Yes, we have James Valero is online. I'm gonna go ahead and promote him. Should work this time. James, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Is that fire?
Yes, yes, we're fine. Oh,
Probably surprised we're moving so fast. Oh, there you go.
he's unmuted, and are we having the same?
Probably not even.
No.
Is this on?
That's off, and they told me to turn that. They told me to keep that off, and I tested the sound before I came in, and it worked just fine.
Hurts some.
So perhaps not again.
When you were to click down there, with those three audio output options, you're down there, click that. Right here, speaker option, can you?
I ran the test.
ran the
I
test
called
on
in
that?
on my
Okay.
phone, and I had no issue.
He's probably not even.
Right.
My God. Could be.
There we go.
But no, still no audio. James, we cannot hear you, and it might be another issue on our end. first or something.
Because like you, I just kind of look at it, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the Q one, that's output here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then that's something, or should be the other one above it, which also that Q,
Well,
that system. That first one, could be that.
try and speak again, James? No. We're not- He's gonna try and call in.
Yeah, do you hear me now on my phone?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, sorry about that. Not sure what's going on with the microphone here at the station. Sorry that I wasn't able to make it out this evening in person. I just wanted to give you an update on call volume in the Palomino Valley area. It looks like we've had, in the month of August, we had 24 calls out in that area, which is staying consistent with the month of July, which is actually double what we had the rest of the year per month. We had 5 fires, 9 EMS calls, and 2 MVAs out in that area were the largest call volume. The rest of it were a smattering of different little issues. The one thing that we do want to talk about is even though we're starting to pick up some moisture, we are still picking up fires here and there. We had one in Sun Valley today from a lightning strike, even though we had rain along with it. And so just let everybody know that the things are still pretty dry out there right now, and we are still picking up fires. And that's about all that we have on our public safety update for this month.
Do we have any questions for the fire department? From the public, I guess we have none. Thank you for your report.
All right, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and stay on here and mute myself. And if you have any questions that come up, I can try to answer them for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from the sheriff?
I do not see the sheriff, and I don't see them online.
Okay, then I think we need to.
All right.
Okay, apparently we don't have any input from the sheriff. They may show up and we'll do them now. So next on the agenda is a presentation by some of the folks from NV Energy. Are they? There's the brave volunteer back there. And they have a presentation, and there was, I think, some handouts back there on the wildfire risk management system that NV Energy is. I guess they call it Power Safe NV. Come on up.
Probably over here, over this way. It's a crowded room. Hopefully.
I think Casey's got, oh.
I've got the PowerPoint, so you just tell me when to change the slide, and I got it.
And could you state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm Nancy Campbell.
Hi folks, I'm Chloe Shipman. I'm our government relations advisor for NV Energy. So I'm here to really introduce Nancy. Thank you for having us. She's our expert on fire protection, our wildfire protocols, and she's going to dive into the details of the presentation. I can also answer any questions for you as well afterwards, but just wanted to say a quick hello, introduce us, and thank you for coming.
Sure.
So I'll hand it over to Nancy.
Welcome. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nancy Campbell. I'm the director of NV Energy's National Disaster Protection Program. I've worked with the company for 17 years, but I just joined this team in late May, so I'm still getting caught up on things. So while I am familiar with everything, if there's certain questions that y'all have afterwards, I may have to get back to you if I don't have the answer right away. So again, thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about NV Energy's Power Safe NV program.
and have the dialogue around what your experience has been and what your concerns are. Next slide, please. So this, it's kind of hard to see for those of you in the back, but according to the U.S. Forest Service, Spanish Springs and our surrounding communities have a very high risk of wildfire, higher than 99% of communities in the U.S. That graphic there, again, I know it's small, but way to the right in the bright red is where the U.S. Forest Service has categorized Spanish Springs and really a lot of northern Nevada communities to be as far as the wildfire risk goes. Currently, the community out here is categorized as a tier 1 elevated risk zone at NV Energy, which means it's a high priority for wildfire mitigation tactics, which I'll get into here in a moment. NV Energy, of course, takes this risk seriously and is committed to reducing the chance of utility-related ignition. Next slide, please. So the Nevada Senate Bill 329 back in 2019 requires for NV Energy to address wildfires and natural disasters through the Natural Disaster Protection Plan. We are currently in our second triennial plan that has been filed and approved by the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada. This current plan goes through 2026, and early next year we will be filing our next triennial plan for 2027 to 2029. This plan contains these 3 elements that are listed here on the right side: prevention, detection, and protection. Next. So system hardening, we are rebuilding overhead lines with covered conductor or tree wire, as it's called sometimes too. We're replacing conventional fuses with non-explosion fuses. Conventional fuses do create an ignition, and so we recognize that that's not ideal in these wildfire mitigation risk activities. So we're replacing those with non-explosion fuses. We're also replacing traditional wood poles with ductile iron alternative or wrapping in a fire mesh material. That fire mesh actually saved a line out in Winnemucca recently from one of their many fires that they've experienced also. So these tactics that we are deploying to the field are proving to be working. Inspections and patrols, we do perform annual patrols and detailed inspections every year. You see the numbers there, over 52,000 inspections and patrols during 2024. These inspections and patrols are really there to identify and address safety issues that may come up over time from things like aging equipment, facilities, bird nests, rodents, all kinds of things, you name it. And then like I said, the system upgrades is everything from overhead line rebuilds to equipment improvement, selective undergrounding in different areas throughout the state, and substation hardening. So looking at the equipment and facilities at substations to mitigate the risks there, because that's a big, electric ground. So it's big for mitigating the risks that are there too. Next slide, please. Yeah. Vegetation management, to reduce fire hazards, we do aerial and ground fuels vegetation management. This is one of our essential preventative measures for the wildfire risk mitigation. We do tree pruning for the lines that are in the next to and in the right of ways of our lines. We do ground fuels management to create that safe zone for electrical infrastructure. So this is everywhere from around poles to our easements, to around substations, throughout our service territory. We've been completing ground fuels management near lines in this area all summer. And since 2020, the team has pruned or removed approximately 125,000 trees in high fire risk areas. So that's again, everything from our vegetation management professionals are very good at identifying the vegetation that grows quickly and needs to be taken, pruned or taken out completely in order to mitigate that risk, versus slower growing fuels that, can just be pruned or cut back and that sort of thing. So we do have pretty robust vegetation management practices to look at throughout the service territory there as well. Detection, this enhances our situational awareness. We want to ensure that we operate our system in the safest way possible during these high-risk conditions that we experience in our state. We've had the installation of wild weather stations and wildfire alert cameras across our service territory. Some of them are owned and operated by us. Some of them are through partnerships with university and other, wildfire aware agencies that we all share, and anyone actually, public included, can access these cameras. Remember the address, the web address for that? I don't, give me one moment. Okay. We also employ industry experts on our team. We have, currently we have 2 meteorologists that have expertise in fire weather and behavior. And they are dedicated to that continuous weather forecasting. In fact, they're constantly in communication, not only across the company, but across our connection points, so like Liberty up at the lake, Tahoe Donner, Public Utility District, et cetera, throughout our service territory. We have constant communication with those groups so that when we see these weather events coming, whether it's for the public safety outage management, which is that proactive de-energization, or, storms, wind, rain, like what we're getting right now. These folks are constantly giving us updates. They're giving updates to our operational folks. So things like lightning coming, right, that can dictate some of our work that we're doing in the field. So that they've been a huge asset to add to our team, looking into these natural disasters and preparedness aspects for the company.
So that website is alertwest.live. Want to look at those.
alertwest.live, yep. So anyone can log in there and you can see it covers a huge territory across our state. So those are really good tools that we're utilizing for these companies. We also have, We also have 2 emergency managers dedicated to handling all types of emergency events that NV Energy may encounter. One of them actually we hired from, he's based out of Las Vegas, but he essentially, decades ago, helped to establish the emergency management program for the Coast Guard. So we have these significantly experienced technical and experts in our company employee that we are utilizing to help us work through all of these emergent situations. So when we do have fires like the Davis fire or like the Winnemucca fires, these individuals are in direct communication with the county emergency managers throughout the state, working on things like customer resource centers, hospitals, critical infrastructure, things of that nature. So these 2 emergency managers are a huge asset to us to have that community communication. They work, everything from Red Cross to, county commissioners to all kinds of stuff. So they're a great asset for us too. And then we also have, and it's actually 4, going on 5 right now, wildfire mitigation specialists with that extensive experience in fire mitigation and control activities. These individuals are essentially retired firefighters, most of them wildland firefighters, so they bring that great experience to the table. They're in direct communication with incident command on whatever events may be taking place. They have direct ties and relationships with local fire agencies that they are able to communicate with those groups to make the decisions for stuff like when we are doing the emergency deactivation, which I'll talk about here in a minute too. So again, these industry experts, it's not just folks, sitting behind the desk that have no idea what they're doing. We actually have people who have been the boots on the ground, who have experience with this type of stuff, helping to make these decisions for things like the proactive outage and stuff like that. Go ahead. Fire season settings are one of the quickest ways to mitigate that ignition potential from electric infrastructure. When we activate these fire season settings, it's using more sensitive equipment settings during high fire risk to reduce those ignitions. The lines will de-energize in a fraction of a second as a fault is detected. Faults can be anything from debris blowing into the lines to trees falling in. Birds, of course, are kind of a big thing, like I mentioned before, rodents. When wind events happen, we've seen trampolines, tarps, all kinds of stuff that get in our lines and cause these, the faults to occur. And as you can see in the picture on the right, this is actually a PG&E study, that they produced, and you can probably find it on YouTube. But it's regarding those sensitive settings versus the normal settings. The top picture is showing what happens when they actually drop like a tree branch into the line from above. And those sensitive settings or the fire season settings were not enabled. You can see the arc flash was caused when that face-to-face fault occurs. And so that arc flash is that ignition potential. Those arcs and sparks fall to the ground beneath the lines or nearby the pole. And if there's vegetation there, right, pine needles, all kinds of stuff, brush, that's where the ignition potential can be. So the bottom picture is they did the same experiment where they dropped another tree branch into the line from above. With those settings enabled, you can see the smoke, you can see that it faulted, but it tripped so quickly that arc flash didn't occur, and that essentially mitigates that ignition potential from those arcs and sparks falling to the ground. But when we have these fire season settings enabled, we have to patrol the line, our crews have to patrol the whole line, the primary line, before we can re-energize. Because you can imagine if there is a trampoline in the line or something of that nature, before we try to re-energize that line, if that condition is still there, that's when that arc and spark continues to happen. So they are required to patrol the whole line before we can safely re-energize, which again could potentially prolong that outage when that occurs. Public Safety Outage Management, or PSOM for short, is when the power may be proactively shut off ahead of extreme weather to prevent wildfires or that risk of ignition. The decisions are based on extreme weather and area conditions. So the company has established PSOM zones throughout the state that is looked at individually, dependent upon things like fuels, relative humidity, wind gusts, and sustained winds, things of that nature. And so that's when those proactive de-energizations come. And again, the why, right, is because damage or debris contacted energized equipment can create those sparks, just like the previous slide showed, that when those conditions exist, even things like line flap, right, if there's enough sag in those lines and they flap together in the wind, that can cause an arc and spark as well. Just really quickly on this one. So the recent fires, as example of the destruction seen caused by power lines not being de-energized during times of extreme risk, are the Lahaina fire from August of 23, the Marshall fire in Colorado in December of 21, and the Smokehouse Creek fire in Texas in March of 2024. Lives were lost, structures were lost. So when those agencies and operators chose not to de-energize in these extreme weather conditions, that was the outcome, right? So we've seen throughout our industry the outcome of when this doesn't happen, the loss of life is just devastating. So that's obviously something that we are avoiding by doing all of this work that I'm kind of sharing with you tonight. Go ahead. So I mentioned emergency de-energization before. This is when active wildfires are encroaching upon or have started nearby our infrastructure. That damaged electrical equipment right through a fire can again cause sparks and potential secondary fires like down the line, even depending on the layout of the circuit. So we de-energize when those wildfires are occurring for that purpose, to avoid any sort of secondary ignitions or exacerbating the current event. And so emergency de-energizations are usually done quickly, as you all are probably very aware. When these fires start and they can take off and run, that we don't have a lot of time, and actually sometimes even our infrastructure has already been impacted, and so we take those outages to again, not have like live wire on the ground and that sort of thing. And as I mentioned before, our industry experts our wildfire mitigation specialists and emergency managers, are working with the community partners, again, like local fire agencies, authorities having jurisdiction, the incident command on scene, and the other regional emergency management for coordination during those events. You know, Davis Fire, again, was kind of a good example of that coordination, between NV Energy and Truckee Meadows. And then, of course, all of the support groups that came in there is working through evacuation and all that kind of stuff. So we do work hand in hand with those, agencies. These emergency energizations apply to all of NV Energy-owned generation, transmission, and distribution facilities. So if there were to be a wildfire encroaching on Tracy Power Generation Station, out past, Lockwood, that we're gonna de-energize the whole station. So just, you know, so it does apply to all of our facilities for that reason. And these de-energizations do tend to be from the substation level, so, that's likely to be a larger outage than just a circuit level, like right if it was just a neighborhood or something. So that can potentially cause a larger outage. During the Marie fire, earlier this year, we had to de-energize one of our transmission lines, and that actually took out like Red Rock and Cold Springs. So even though they were nowhere near that fire, doing that proactive, or I'm sorry, the emergency de-energization for, the risk mitigation on that ignition potential, had that impact across the region. The fire, and of course, so the fire situation and complexity, plus that communication and coordination with the incident command and the authorities having jurisdiction, will influence re-energization and outage duration. So, you know, for example, one of the other Winnemucca fires, did burn down one of our lines, so we had to go rebuild that line, and that outage lasted a couple of days. Okay, so these are just a couple tips, that we like to share with everybody, that your, My Account online, if you sign up for notifications through the, My Account portal, you will get the texts and emails and other stuff that come through when these events are occurring. Some of our customers that we've spoken with previously, like for example, a business, they have the phone number as their front desk phone number. Well, that's not going to like a facilities manager or, you know, someone who needs to know if the power is going to go out. So we recommend that both residential and business owners look at your My Account portal to make sure that you have all of the correct information. You can add more than one phone number, so if you want it to be a front desk and someone, it can be there. If you're a family and you want the whole family to get the notifications, you can do that as well. And then the Green Cross program is designed to aid customers who rely on electrically operated medical equipment. And those customers will have a special status listed on their account, which allows NV Energy to prioritize communication and care. So they do receive advanced notification of scheduled outage, whereas the, you know, kind of the general public gets the 72, 48, 24-hour notices. The Green Cross customers are prioritized restoration after an unplanned outage. And then, of course, depending on the situation and the individual, we can offer, you know, lodging or accommodation outside of that area for those customers as well. Okay. So, so that email address is manned every day, and that phone number, we do have a person that answers that phone number. And so if you have specific questions, like if you get a letter in the mail and you have questions about what it entails, feel free to reach out to that. If after today, when we leave here, if you have additional questions that you know I can't answer or something, and you know, like I said, I'll get the answer back to these folks. But feel free to shoot a note to that email address or give that phone number a call, and we can answer whatever questions you have. We know, I live out here too, I'm not by Kmart, and I've experienced these outages too. We know how impactful this can be to our customers. One thing that you know, with the changing environment, changing climate, changing customer count, right, the growth in our areas that we've seen. Utilities across the nation are experiencing this. You know, as I mentioned, those couple of examples, and there's hundreds more. NV Energy has largely operated over the last, you know, century, literally, for reliability almost at all costs. And so now we have to reevaluate, you know, what our infrastructure is, where it's at, what are the conditions that we are seeing. And so we are operating, you know, in this kind of new world with these risks that exist in our areas. So with that, I'm open for questions or however you guys want to do that.
Okay, before we start public comment, I want to make a suggestion. Let's not shoot the messenger here tonight. These folks have volunteered to come out and let us know what NV Energy's position is and the Public Utilities Commission has approved. So as you address them, if you're questioning under public comment, be kind. But get the message across, and I'm sure that they will take it back to their principals, and we would request that we get answers to the questions that come up. Okay, so public comment. Go on.
Hi, my name is Bob Gunn, spelled 2F. My wife and I have lived here for 26 years. We live up near the end of Amy Road, the south end of Amy Road. And there's this patch up there where it seems like we lose power frequently. We've experienced over those 26 years, we've learned that we can depend. And by the way, I bought a backup generator. We can depend on power failures anywhere from 4 to 6 times annually. However, this year, Nevada Energy has outdone itself because we've experienced through August, we've experienced up there 8 power failures. And when we called in, usually the response is we're not aware of any power failure when you go through all this about where you live and all that kind of stuff. And that's okay. But we've never been notified of a de-energization episode, whatever. It's always, well, we're unaware that there's power failure. So they got to search it out. And later on, and we'll lose power anywhere from 2.5 up to 8 hours, mostly 2.5, 3 hours. At the end of that time, we'll get a message to say, well, it was a cable or a cable box. And that's all we know. So we found out that as far as reliability from Nevada Energy, we cannot depend on that energy for consistent power supply. Stuff I can't do it. And I have no speculative reasons for that, except that I know for a long time I was talking about upgrading out here. The question is there a plan to upgrade this system? You were talking about some upgrading here. Is it poor equipment, poor maintenance, lack of caring, or just what is it that causes all these power failures? Because 8 times in 8 months is getting a little heavy, and frequently these power failures will occur when there's no wind, evening, daytime, nighttime. There'll be no wind, clear sky, no rain, no lightning, just goes on. So it becomes frustrating after a while.
I understand, yeah. So in addition to those outages that I spoke about before, like I said, we actually have a lot of AVN caused outages, right? A lot of purge that get into the line, that sometimes depending on, like I said, the system settings, that may cause a prolonged outage because then we have to go patrol those lines, and if we find the bird, then we know, and they can input that into the system. As you mentioned, the junction boxes and, other things of that nature, yeah, I mean, equipment is aging, right? Like, we, in order to keep rates favorable, like, we can't just go change out everything into brand new. So we do have to prioritize, just like for the Power Save NV program, we are prioritizing things like undergrounding certain areas, the covered conductor in certain areas. So the risk remains, while we are actively, going and doing some of those programs. So the same thing is true for the rest of our system, where we do have aging facilities. I know, I have some friends that live in Lovelock, and they call me all the time with outages. And, you know, just rural areas tend to have, a lot of overhead, right, that's old, and it's in the weather, sun, those sorts of things. And our normal operations folks do perform similar inspections and patrols, but again, there's only so many, you know, employees that can work so many hours in a day to get through some of that. So when those outages occur, and I do have a note to go back to our customer care center to see what sort of information they're getting for these outages, because, you're right, if we have an outage, you should not have to call us to tell us about it, right?
Gotta
So,
call you guys every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. so I wrote down your address or your street, you said Amy Road, to look into that, because you're exactly right. We owe it to our customers to provide as accurate and up-to-date information as we possibly can, especially around outages, since they are so impactful.
Well, there's a pocket up there, and I don't know how many homes are in it. Near the south end of Baby Road. That the power will fail, and we can look out across the valley and see all kinds of lights on. But we up there without power. So the question is, why is that? What needs to be changed? What can be upgraded?
Yep, I mean, the why is because they're on a different circuit. So depending on what the actual cause of those outages are, it can affect just one neighborhood, one home, even if it's your service drop, that kind of stuff. But, you're right, is looking at what the plan looks like for that area.
Wanda.
Wanda, right? Many of us that have chosen to live out here and had to pay you guys ridiculous fees to bring us power, and you still are so incompetent that you cannot even tell us, like this young man told you. I have never had anybody tell me, oh, we're aware of the outage. I live right on Pyramid Highway. We still get our power from the old Sutcliffe line that comes from the lake. And it is aggravating to sit there and see everybody else with power, and Lord and behold, we don't have any, and you're unaware of it. I have your Green Cross, which is a joke. I've got 5 pieces of medical equipment that my life literally depends on. I call you people, your answer is call 911 if you run out of oxygen. Well, I can plan ahead, but God knows for how many hours when you people don't even know that we don't have power. And my other question is, your smart meters that are supposed to know everything, why don't you know that we're without power? And everybody assumes someone else has called. Do you know of the next public utilities meeting that is going to be held in Reno? It's high time that we let the Public Utility Resource Commission know what lousy service we get from them. And now we have to dip in, and all of us are paying on our bill for insurance. You don't help pay our insurance, but you're billing us for your insurance to help all the fires.
Okay, Wanda, your 3 minutes is up. Next public comment.
Thanks,
Each person gets 3 minutes. George.
George Boyd for the record. We had an outage here about a week or so ago where it was at 1 o'clock in the morning. It was nice that the power company called me and told me that they knew about it, okay? Well, what I got a problem with is when you turn around and call me every 2 hours and the power don't come on until 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, once I know the power's out, you know about it, they shouldn't call me back again. They should just let it go. We made the initial call. But no, 2 hours later, they called me again. 2 hours later, they called me again. And the call's the same, saying that they know the power's outage, but they haven't determined what caused it. Well, I don't need to know that. I mean, just call me once and don't call me again. You know, it's not gonna come out any sooner by you calling me, telling me you don't know what the outage caused the outage.
Is that, was it like a, automated message?
Yeah.
Or was, okay, and it was just telling you that your power's out?
Well, yeah, it tells me that they haven't determined the deal and at the time it would come back on. But you tell me that once, I don't need to know that again and again and again. It didn't come back on till 10 o'clock in the morning. And they're calling me every 2 hours. Well, I was sleeping there, it's phone ring.
Want to keep you on your toes, George.
Well, yeah, that's all I got. It's just, I think it's something that it's redundant, you know, I mean, I guess the computer's set up that way or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do our best to identify what the cause may be and then update, you know, our customers regarding that, because that can depend, or the restoration can depend on the cause, right? If it's a car versus pole, might be a little bit longer than if it's, like I said, like a bird or something in the line that gets cleared. So I'm making an assumption that that's probably why they have it set up that way, but I appreciate the feedback and I'll take that back to our.
Well, it's just, you know, one call to me seems to be enough, especially when it's in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
You know, I don't care if the power's out in the middle of the night, I'm sleeping anyway.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, but I mean, for them to call me every 2 hours, that didn't make sense.
understood.
Well, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Any further public, Wayne?
Yeah, Wayne Mortensen for the record. I was wondering if you could touch on these fire season settings as they apply to Palomino Valley. Is this the first year they've applied them? Because as this gentleman noted, we've had more power outages this year than normal.
Mhm.
Could you also talk about what additional resources you add during the fire season settings so the reinspection can happen in a timely fashion, and if you've committed to a certain time of getting things reinspected, that would be good to know. And then what exactly are the dates for the fire season for Palomino Valley? When can we expect to perhaps have more outages during the year?
So I'll try to cover a couple of the points. So, this is not new. These fire settings have been in place for a couple of years now
In Palomino Valley?
in across the state.
Fine.
Yes, but yes, Palomino Valley, yes. The resources that we have available are our normal resources. So we do have, troublemen, linemen, foremen, and crews on call 24/7. So,
Are you adding resources? Because this is an additional task, right?
well, it can be. We do also have contract inspectors that can perform this work. So I guess where I'm going with that is we have not had an instance yet where, we've had these situations occur and we don't have someone to go do those patrols. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then, I'm sorry, what was your third question?
It's what are the dates for the fire season?
Oh.
Palomino Valley.
So that's actually kind of a more difficult question to answer because we don't say fire season any longer. In fact, our wildfire mitigation specialists, like I mentioned before, they get a little bit upset if we start saying fire season, because now there is no fire season. And so we actually, I'll give you a generality though, usually around May through October is when we start seeing the general, or the average, I would say, high-risk weather events and weather conditions occur in our state. We also have fast trip fire mode, where it's like, I was trying to say this, it's a step above the fire season settings. And so things lock open and you have to actually go like have a person manually close back in the lines and things like that, rather than our, system control. Those system settings, the fast trip fire mode, we go in and out of depending on if we see weather events coming to prepare for. But fire season settings, we tend to go into, in the springtime, as soon as we start to see the thing, the fuels dry out. And then, at the end of the season, when we have snow on the ground.
Would it be possible to put out communication to the community, customers,
Yeah,
on when this happens, so we know to expect perhaps more outages? It just feels like there's a lot of lack of communication going on, but could, a lot of these issues and concerns could be addressed with just better communication.
so let me ask you what types of communication you prefer, because we do communications, we do mailers, we do commercials, we do social media. So what can we do to get to you that you will see?
Like something to my account that when I'm notified that I've got a notification.
Great.
Don't call me every 2 hours.
Well, now that I got your number, I'm gonna call you.
I know.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. The lady back there, I don't know your name, would you take your name for the record, please? Okay,
Springs Road, been there about 47 years now. Closer to Farm Springs, Father. When we first built the state expansion of the pole system, which was the farthest up in. And ever since we moved in, when we lose power, lost power in the cap, the whole valley, which is kind of courthouses, to now when we complete stuff. They're all like this. And so in the past, I recall, and it would be a pole on the corner of Amy and Horn Springs. It would light up as soon as storm moved in and so forth. And then no power. The same thing happens, except there's no sizzle on the pole. But as Bob said, you look out and the whole valley was split up. And we had no power, and I went in to probably something hot. And so, I also don't ever get notifications back on my phone. Press the button that I would like to be called when I get power, and I never get a call. And sometimes it will go for a couple of days. We put a generator because we need the power. So anyway, I think that some special attention might be paid to that little part of the valley, which now must have at least a dozen residents. Population's growing, but there seems to be a weakness in the flow of energy of our way. When we lose power, everybody else may open. So maybe somebody could come and do some further analysis to see what the politics is.
And I'm sorry, what was the cross street?
Pony Springs, I'll run the corner of Pony Springs and Amy. Really appreciate it.
thank you. Ready to hear, state your name.
I'm gonna take 3 minutes. My name is Terry Butler. I do not have power right now. So all the glittering lights are in the valley. I am off of Rangeland Road and I haven't had power since 3 p.m. and no one had reported it. And Wanda, who lives across the street, has power. So to a point here, for a change, yes. One challenge I think coming up in this valley is, and I'd like to understand more, right, of the termination point. When you describe birds on a wire and people having to watch an entire line to clear it, my suspicion is that in this valley, there's not just one or even two possibly 3 or 4 termination points to lines that are impacted broader than just a pole. And I don't know that for a fact. I'm starting to get a gut feeling about it as I look at the neighbors' lights on and off across the valley. But I mention it because it may not be as easy as just coming from right this moment and looking at these gals and guys who've been 47 years in one pocket of 13 houses. I think residents across the valley would probably agree that if we're doing storm mitigation and if we need to do announcements, the Palomino Valley area is challenging for NV Energy. And we've spent a lot of money, as others have in the last, 3 years, in excess of $50,000 to get 2 poles put in, right? 47 years ago, I hope it was, more poles for the dollars.
$800 a pole.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Good luck with that.
The point is not how much, it's that as I added it, I believe I'm the last pole on not Lonnie's line, but some other line, right? So if we're gonna do storm mitigation and we're gonna start flipping switches, more sensitivity involved. This valley is definitely fire at risk, we definitely, all the things that safety needs to be. But the residents here are not, on a one flip and switch line, I believe. I'd like more information about how that works and, how to improve the options for the end of the line that I think all of us are experiencing. And I have not gotten an alert for 3, but we do not have supper because it's not turned on. I do not have a generator yet. I might have to go that route.
This gentleman back here, station name for the record, please.
Dave Dutcher. So we live up on Right-Hand Canyon. And we've been up there 21 years now. And power, I would say it's been the last few years. It's been so unreliable the last few years. It's been really bad this year. But it's 21 years ago, our power never went out. We'd have a raging 56,000 acre fire across the street from me, and I still had power. And but now it's not like that. And NV never knows my power is out, ever. I have never gotten a text message. I'll not take that, that's why. I did get a text message in the last power outage, because I called and I was not very nice to people on the phone. I was tired of calling, and this was like the 8th power outage in a 2-week period. And we're not California. So then, to his point, I do care if power goes out at 1 o'clock in the morning, to my wife's family, because we've got meat in the freezers. The power's out in the summertime, I'm losing thousands of dollars of meat. And we don't have any water, we've got livestock, right? Yes, got generator, right? But it's not the same. And I did get a text message telling me my power was back on, right, at 9 o'clock at night. And it's like, duh, I'm home, right? But it was 2 hours after the power already came back on, right? And I never got a notice ever in my entire life. In 21 years, I've never got a notice telling me the power's going out, or that it is out, or any other notification. And when I call, I get, we don't know. There's nothing in the notes. We have no idea why the power's out. Well, that tells me that somebody's being totally incompetent. I mean, incompetence is the thing. And NV Energy is showing itself to be extremely incompetent, or they're understaffed. You just mentioned there's not enough people, right? Well, word has it, NV Energy gave $800 million to Ukraine when they could have hired more people. Okay, yeah, don't get me started, right? It's like, and I worked for NV Energy for about a year. Worst job I ever had. I would never tell anybody that I worked for them. But anyway, the point being is the power goes out, and the power goes out because you let a breaker trip because a squirrel ran across the wire.
You're gonna need to
We're not
finish
gonna-
up because your time's up.
Oh.
So go ahead, but go ahead and finish up, Richard.
Oh, it's all right. We're not California. We're not gonna ignite like Washoe County did not too long ago and burned up green. That's not gonna happen here. We don't have the vegetation. It's all
Are there
flat
any,
fuel.
are there any other, yes, sir. Yeah, state your name for the record.
My name is Joe Greenstein. I've only been here 6 years, so I'm still a newbie. But, this year seems like we've had a lot more outages than the last years I've been here. One question I have for you is, you asked about, how do you notify people when you go to the fire season settings and turn them off? You've already got the text message system in place, so if we just work, well, actually, let me ask you a question before I finish that. Is that decision made regionally or like very local? So would it just be Palomino Valley is going to the settings, or would it be everybody around Reno going to the settings, or everybody in the state?
It can be regionally, right? If Carson City sees storm after storm from the lake effect, they may be more delayed going into fire season settings than this area.
Okay.
So it can be, yeah.
So if you're, if you could send a text message to me on the system you already have that said, we've turned on fire season settings, or we've turned off fire season settings, that would be useful. Because then I know that, I'm gonna have less reliable or more likelihood of the power going out.
Is that,
Thank you.
that's it. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
State your name for the record, please.
Pat McMurray, Hawkberry Road. Unlike a lot of people here, I am getting notifications. I just counted them. I got 11 outages this year. And, it makes sense to me that, you're gonna be dropping the power. Seems this is a really high fire area. But question, how come NV Energy isn't working with some of the people that really rely on the electricity? You put in alternate sources, battery walls or generators or whatever. Seems to me you guys are the energy experts. You gotta be figuring out a solution. It makes sense you drop the power. We don't want the place to burn up. But a lot of people need that power, so we gotta figure out another way.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. We've had some discussions around that topic, previously as well, and we do have a team of folks at the company trying, some of you may remember, we did, NV Energy did some rebates and stuff with lighting, quite a few years ago, so we're trying to look into those types of programs as well, for that exact purpose, is to say, okay, like you said, batteries, solar, generators, things like that, like what could there potentially be like those programs that we could go after, so it is something that we are looking at, but thank you for that.
Okay, I'll take two more questions, and then we're gonna have to cut them to stop. Yes, sir, go ahead. Look,
Okay, this is bigger
Okay.
fast. I'm gonna go off the grid for the next year. Do I have to notify you guys?
Yes. Because the equipment on your house belongs to NV Energy, so we'll.
It's not on my house, it's on a pole down, telephone down.
Yeah.
So you disconnect the connector.
We will.
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Jeff?
Yes, Jeff Taylor is my name, and I have personal knowledge of just the absolute miserable failures the company has perpetrated on these wonderful people in this room for the last 25 years that I've been here. Absolutely miserable failures, not your fault personally, but I'd like to embellish what Bob and Meg said, that there's a serious problem area along Amy Road. There are no bird nests on the poles. They couldn't, the insulators don't provide for it. It's only one or two poles up from your main line that feeds the southeast portion of Palomino Valley and your relay system where the power comes in from Tracy into the valley on Pony Spring. So it's absolutely inexcusable, the power failures that these two people have had at 3655 South Amy. It can be a bright sunny day and without any wind, without any large birds with wingspans large enough to short the wires, it just failures. It just fails. It just seems to fail. Another huge problem area, and hopefully Sue Davis is here that runs the Equestrian Center, that she'll vouch for this, that the area between Pyramid
and Grass Valley Road and going up Wayside absolutely fails. It seems like, many times a month it fails. It drops. You just cannot keep the power on. You folks can't keep it on. And then, last week, I have, a service in Spanish Springs. Your company actually cleared the failure, but they didn't. And it took me 3.5 or 4 hours to get your company to come back and look at the failure that the lineman cleared, but they didn't. They cleared it in the computer, but they didn't go there and actually physically look at it. They just drove away because they thought they were clearing it. And you say you live in Spanish Springs too. So this was between La Posada and Calle de la Plata on the hill over there. So there was a whole spur there. Also, you may or may not know this, but your new wonderful fuse holders that don't explode, that have the solder that melts in them, are overheating and blowing up. I had one the other day at 2000 Whiskey Springs that blew off the pole at 9:30 in the morning for no reason at all. The new fuses in your new insulated enclosures now are failing. And even the linemen said that they're failing.
Are they made in China?
Yeah, well, you know, China might be better.
Let's not go there.
Okay. And then, what else? I'm in Amy Road, I'm in the Wayside and the corridor between the highway, and Grass Valley Road. Constant failure. But there is a spur off of Whiskey Springs Road that goes north across the Pratt property and serves Wayside, where the GID building is. And I'm not sure, I'm not there to see if the fuses are blown. And I'll just have you know, about 20 years ago, there was a massive snowstorm here. And I was out here in the valley at 8 o'clock at night in the dark with 2 or 3 feet of snow on the ground after everybody had suffered a power outage for nearly 4 days, leading your linemen that could not read the road maps in their trucks, leading the linemen around to show them where the fuses had dropped around your valley. So I'm sorry you got the end of my conversation, but it's very, very bad out here. And I just don't think your company's going to get away with it for very long. It's just really bad. And then one of the things I've noticed is there are no surge protectors, no MOV surge protectors anywhere on the branch circuits or the main feeder lines, except where you put your relays in your disconnects. You're protecting your fancy new disconnects where you want to turn everybody off in the valley, but there are no other surge protectors. And the people that live on the west side of the valley, their circuit is exposed to the lightning all the way up through Paiute Creek and to the Doppler on Virginia Peak. And I find that inexcusable. I'm an electrical engineer, just as Larry is, and a journeyman wireman electrician. The very last thing I wired, I have a lot of experience, was PG&E's Diablo Canyon nuclear reactors. I worked in the reactor course 4.5 years. I've lived and worked all over the world. I've never seen such unreliable power. It's absolutely inexcusable what these people have to live through every month out there.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're done.
You did very well.
You finished, Bobby?
Okay, so I'm gonna end public comment on this. If you have, I do have one quick thing. Okay, from the dais, any comments or questions?
Well, on the technical side, do you, are there limitations to wattages coming into this valley on the lines?
I'm not actually the right person to answer that
Okay.
question. I mean, our system.
Well, it says fuses are blowing, and that's a current problem.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm just wondering if there's limitations, because the valley is growing.
Mhm.
And I just wonder if that's been looked at, you know, with the growth and.
We do,
Yeah.
we do have an entire division of planners that look at that sort of data and the system settings and stuff, yeah.
It'd be good to know what the limitations are and where the lines come in. And we could probably at least analyze ourselves based on like 40 kilowatts per home and see if there's enough power available on them. So I don't know. I just want to looking at that. perspective.
So, Carolyn White for the record, so in your natural disaster protection program, the first thing you talk about is prevention, vegetation management, infection control, and grid ruggedization. You did talk about that happening generally, just hardening, what's happening in the valley? What kind of grid ruggedization are we currently seeing? What kind of system hardening? Maybe.
So I don't have exact specifics right now. I can get that to you. We do track, of course, the projects that we have. Sounds like we have done the non-exposure seizures in the area. Again, I'm not sure if this has been done or not, but the fire pole mesh wrap, is something that is done frequently. And then, I'd have to go back to you on what exactly has been done.
I have a question about our designation sort of generally. I understand that for like a high risk fire area, I mean, obviously we are. But then when I pull up the PSOM map for NV Energy, and the entire areas of the state, like Gerlach, Unnapah, Hawthorne, are not part of these designations. What makes those places different here? Why are we designated this and they aren't?
So the designation came from when this program was first started back in 2019. The individuals who are no longer employed by NV Energy who made those designations essentially pulled some maps. I actually don't know where they got them from. And that was what they kind of brought forward to the commission. And that's essentially how it ended up where it is now. As I mentioned with the new upcoming triennial plan, we are looking at improving that stuff because we recognize, again, back to those, industry experts, right? Our wildfire mitigation specialists are very adamant that what we have not designated as like a tier is in fact one of our highest risk areas. So we are altering that protocol and kind of how those designations have like come to be. So not a great answer, but that's basically just how it was to begin with. And now we're seeing, we have the experience and we're seeing kind of where the gaps are and we're trying to address those.
Maybe a question. One more for you. So I understand that like vegetation, general, like wind, et cetera, all of this contributes to our fires, right? How much does the age of our equipment factor into our designation?
We have one more time, so the age of your infrastructure.
Yeah. Like how
factor
much is
into-
the infrastructure, how much is the grid itself informing our designation? Is it really just like, it's windy here, so our power is gonna go off, what was it, me, 7 times in July?
So it's back to, I forget which slide it's on, but talking about like the weather conditions, drought, high winds, right?
But these are largely like fair weather outages, right? Like not windy, and I
Right.
understand stuff like birds land on lines, whatever. But I'm saying, is our designation derived from something to do with our grid? Is our grid aging? Is our grid old? And that our triggers are worse. We're having more outages because of the age of our grid, not necessarily because our fire danger is worse than on the top.
So the designation that I think you're referring to is like the aging facilities and stuff, that comes into play for things like the grid ruggedization and things of that nature. When we are looking at things like the proactive outages, that we're looking at things like the ground fuels, the relative humidity, wind, et cetera. So the aging infrastructure comes into play when our normal operations is looking at like rebuilding overhead lines and things like that. So it doesn't come into play as much when we're looking at proactive de-energization. It also does not have anything to do with the emergency de-energization from fires, but it does come into play when our developers and designers are looking at where throughout our service territory.
Okay, thank you so much. Hope you don't leave with your hair on fire, but you've been very gracious. I want to thank the audience for staying themselves. And you've given us a lot of information. We've given you a lot of feedback. And we look forward to some additional feedback for the
Mhm.
question.
Yeah, so I have a couple email addresses from how this got coordinated. So that will likely be the way that we reach back out with these answers.
Do either of you, Casey McDonald, for the record, do either of you have a contact card, that I can get, or do you have my email? I just don't know who I was emailing to set this up.
So it was likely to be Katie Jo Collier.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the name.
so that's, yeah, so,
Okay,
Well, she's giving us good contact.
yes,
perfect, okay, just so there's an open line.
yeah, so we'll work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving right along, do we have let's see, report on request, what was I gonna do about that?
I didn't prepare one
Oh.
for you, it was just,
Oh, that was
that's
just a
on me.
Okay. All right, I got that one. Next, neighbor development hub and other engagement opportunities.
Yeah, let me see.
And Casey goes over this at every meeting, so it's nice that all of you are here.
Yeah, it's actually
There are ways
perfect,
to communicate with,
so.
find out what's going on, around the county, and Casey's gonna, explain that.
Yeah, if the internet wants to connect. Mhm. You can access the Neighborhood Development Hub by just going to the Washoe County BCC page. And if you scroll down past all of our commissioners, you can find, oh god, it's been a minute. Neighborhood Meeting Hub down here. And that will take you to sort of an overarching page of the different developments through Washoe County, through the different districts, and it's going really fast out here.
Well, why absolutely. Well, what this is gonna lead you to is the development hub. And that's where everything is listed of all new development that's occurring in the county, and you could go on to this thing. Our internet's so slow here in this building that who knows when it'll get up, but, you go onto that county website, go to the neighborhood development hub, and then you can log on to that, put in your email address, and, you can go by district, by county commissioner districts. Looks like our internet's not working at all. So, districts, and, what development projects are going on in those districts. So you would go to Washoe County Commission, the homepage, go down bottom left-hand corner where it says Development Hub, and that will bring you to, a list of menu items that you can sign up for, that are sent to you automatically, notices from the county. You get notices from the planning commission, from the county commission, from, general county information. There's a whole library of things that you can check and, get an automatic, well, what happened?
Yeah, it's still not the right page, but you've explained was still good and correct. Apologies for the internet connection. The other thing that we would share is we do have an engagement opportunity. So if you have printed the agenda for the meeting, and if not, there are some extra ones up there. There's a little QR code you can scan with your phone. Open your camera, and it'll click you to a link, and there you can give more feedback for the Warm Springs area online. I'll ask you a few questions. So what we do here at the county, what I do as part of my job is if you leave that feedback, I take that to my bosses, and then we can create more tab topics going forward. I can bring that up to the commissioner, who's here, Herman, and say, hey, like there's like 30 people still talking about power outages. Maybe we should invite NV Energy back out to figure out what's still going on, or do they have updated questions? So, or if there are other issues that we just don't know about, that's another good way to, if we can't make these meetings, that's another great way to contact the county and leave your comment there. And what I have there for Development Hub.
Okay, I have to apologize.
Apologize for the internet, but it is, if you need help finding how to see what kind of developments are going on or access it, please just email me. My card is on the table. Or you can, of course, email Larry and he can talk to me as well.
Okay, next on the agenda is, members and, all right, we have our county commissioner, Jeannie Herman. Jeannie, do you have any comments you'd like to make tonight? No, she's here as a spectator, okay. Anything from the dais? Questions, comments, or suggestions for future agenda items?
I think Dan Moore took for the record, I think we ought to invite Nevada Energy back. But I think that we first should, email them some questions that we would like answered.
Okay,
If you guys can provide me, I know you brought them up, of course, but much more detailed sort of list of questions, I'll get right back to you.
Good.
Sounds like they're willing to come out, so.
okay, your last chance to vent, any general public comment?
Question,
Go ahead.
could you, ask NDOT if they could come out and make a presentation on why the heck they're trying to get us all killed on Pyramid with only one lane of traffic? And all of the rock trucks and the gravel trucks, it should have been 2 lanes easy in each direction before they start approving all these dank houses that the government lets it throw money.
Good point.
Is that on Pyramid Highway, so I understand what road? Okay.
We had NDOT out here before,
Yeah,
with the guy that does all the design stuff and the manager and
a
stuff.
couple of years ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we still don't have good roads.
Yeah, no, that'd be great, I have questions for him too.
Thank
Here,
you.
Carrie Butler, and I'll add to that, recently I go to Wadsworth periodically, and they opened a very large road off of I-80 just before, Burning Man, and that has increased traffic coming from the freeway back through to the new warehouses and things on this road. I don't know the freeway system there very well, but in the last like 3 weeks, they've opened up a very large road and they're directing I-80, not through Wadsworth with all the traffic lights, but through a nice freeway exit that dumps the backside of the lake through Nixon on through the valley.
Up to 447.
Now, it's kind of new here, but, that certainly has, in 4 weeks, has picked up traffic AM, PM coming out of Rangeland Road. If you're commuting now around freeway traffic back through here, so that might speak to the 2 lanes that you can kill.
So that's my path to get around, so that's the way I go that way every day, twice a day, right? And that bypass, we just did that, and I think it was to get rid of the Burning Man people going through Wadsworth, right? It doesn't dump out right into the, you have to either go right or left, you don't have a choice, so if you go left, you're in the Wadsworth, and go right, it goes to the freeway. Yeah.
So this is general public comment, and we want to keep it specific to the Warm Springs, Palomino Valley.
But they are,
So we
It's
don't,
increasing traffic here for sure. Because-
now to get away from.
well, I live on Rangeland Road too, so I,
Yeah, you're seeing it.
yeah,
I have a question about the grass fire on South Ironwood that happened some months ago. Was, and it dovetails into, NBE's presentation that there was debris clearance, there was grass, and it kind of gave us the idea that they were involved in clearing that grass or debris around their poles. Was that fire ever determined that it was, maybe attributable to, a fuse or something?
no, it wasn't attributable to a fuse. It was somebody working on a farm implement that started the fire away from the line. And the determination came out, and we were on getting the county notices, the county fire, gave a determination of what.
Oh, okay.
And right off the top of my head, what's left of my head,
It's a moot point, but I'd like to add something. I visited that site yesterday, and I noticed that there was really
very, very little clearing beyond a path for driving.
Yeah.
Around there. And so are we led to believe that they're involved in debris clearance? And we were also on Pony Springs Road where the power comes into Palomino Valley. And from Pony Springs Road, right next to Bed's house, the line goes all the way to behind the Apple solar panels, in Tracy. And, I noticed that it was massive amounts of very high grass there. So, I mean, if they're leading us to believe that they're clearing things or doing something, mitigation there to try and prevent fires, I didn't see it yesterday.
I don't, we're getting off general public comment, but, they're not clearing right of ways. They're clearing basic diameters underneath cross arms at the poles, best they can. It's a huge multi-million-dollar project. So anyhow, is there any other, further public comment? Seeing none, we are adjourned.